All right. So we have found my great pal, Ann Coulter. Delighted to have her on, as always. A great guest on the Kudlow TV show and the radio show. Ann's got a new book, as you probably know. It's called In Trump We Trust, Pluribus Awesome. By the way, she's got 11 New York Times bestsellers. I don't know if JFK and Reagan will be a bestseller, but we're going to give it our best shot. And welcome back. Thank you for doing this.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Good to be here. Sorry, I'm a few minutes late.
Not to worry. Never to worry. I want to. You're much in the news about the immigration debate and so forth, but I want to do the book justice, if I can. Just generically, when did you first come out in support of Trump, and what were your gut instincts about the guy? You were early, and rightfully so. What was it, in your gut, in your head, to put this book out and support Trump?
Well, he won me over with the Mexican rapist speech. I've been waiting my entire life for some presidential candidate to care more about the well-being of Americans than the well-being of people who have broken our laws to get in our country, broken our laws to stay in our country, broken our laws to take jobs in our country. It took me a couple of weeks after his opening speech. I was waiting for him to back down, as is the usual process for any politician who takes America's side on these various issues, and he never backed down. I kept emailing his one campaign guy, which is why he never backed down. It was just three of them basically running the entire campaign through 2015. And I kept emailing his campaign guy saying, don't let him back away from abortion, don't let him back away from abortion. And he kept saying, oh, he's not going to, trust me. But it wasn't until he came out with the Muslim ban that I believed he really wasn't going to back down.
Weren't you happy, though, as months passed?
Ecstatic.
But wait. Weren't you happy that your great, dear, old, supply-side tax-cutting friends were moving into the Trump camp? I'm not going to mention any names.
Why, yes, I was.
Didn't that make you happy? I bet you I surprised you, didn't I?
You surprised me by not being an immigration patriot for years and years and years. Now this seems normal. Now the world is right.
Meaning,
I think anyone who cares about the things you care about, I care about, as I say in my book, you can't have a conservative country without a conservative populace. Immigration is changing the country, and anyone who doesn't understand that is the enemy of any conservative undertaking. Look at the evangelicals and the gun people. They figured out where their interests are. Look to California, to the future of America. If we don't get control of immigration, and we're pretty close to it being finally over. I was deeply depressed when Romney lost. As I describe in the book, this was the strongest candidate we had for president as Republicans since Reagan. And 2 months after Benghazi, and the president who made a mess of the Middle East, and the president who socialized and ruined health care. And we still lose that election? I went on radio the next morning in a funk and said, okay, it's over. Teddy Kennedy won. They brought in ringers to outvote Americans. They could never happily it's sort of sweet about my fellow Americans that Democrats finally gave up on them. We're not getting you guys to vote for socialism. But I did think there was some hope, which is why, maybe a 10% shot to save the country, which is why I wrote Adios America. And thank God Donald Trump read it. I only needed one person to read it. But he's never backed down with all of the hysteria. And as for this week, my book is to explain the entire Trump phenomenon, but the people who need to read it most, i.e., the ones in the media and the ones in Washington, they never will. Maybe they will, in halfway through Trump's second term. But this will give arguments to people who want to persuade their liberal friends or their never-Trumper friends. It's now or never, and we can fight about everything else later. You may have noticed I dedicated the book to Mickey Kaus,
yes,
who's a Democrat, a longtime Democrat,
yes,
a supporter supporter of Obamacare. We went to a party out here in L.A. together, and my friends, or not my friends of my friends, came up and said, we saw you were bringing Mickey Kaus, and we looked him up, and he's a liberal Democrat. He supported Obamacare. They were nice conservatives at this party. And I said, yes, but he's good on immigration. Once we've saved the country and we're not being outvoted by foreigners, we will disagree about everything else. But right now, this is the last shot to save the last Christian country on earth.
Well, I'm a big fan of Mickey Kaus, by the way.
He's very smart, damn him.
That's right. There you go. He actually, it's rare in political commentary. He actually does his own thinking.
Yes.
I'd like to put myself in that category, but I think Mickey Kaus is really a leader. So, Ann, I know down through the years we've had these great interviews, and you've always called me a big squish on immigration, and I understand. Doesn't mean I don't love you any less. But I will tell you this. I have moved in your direction, Donald Trump's direction. And you know what the major reason is?
What?
The war. The terrorist war, the radical Islamic war, the ISIS war. And so I've come around the last year. I've been criticized by some of my National Review friends, but, you know, sometimes you change. War can change you. So here I am saying to you on this lovely Saturday, I am in favor, whether it's a wall or a barrier or whatever, I am in favor of enforcing the borders. I'm in favor of that. I was a little squishy on that. I admit, this is like true confessions to an old friend. Particularly, Ann, seems to me the real breakdown here, and happened under our friend George W. as well as Obama, is this catch and release business.
Oh, yes,
all right?
Thank you.
See, that's driving me. What we should have is catch and deport immediately.
No, this is how they got their numbers up, and don't be fooled. Don't be fooled, listener, whenever they talk about, the deportations have gone up under Obama. No, they changed the definition of deportation.
Right there. I mean, but
it's like what they did to AIDS years ago. They changed the definition, and suddenly there was a huge increase in the number of AIDS cases. Well, you can change the definition, but then don't also turn around and say, huge increase. There has not been a huge increase in deportations. Nobody ever counted before, just repelling them at the border.
Right. To me, that's absolutely crucial. And I want to take a break and come back into the current controversy. But one last thing that really got hold of me, Ann, was the sanctuary city stuff.
Yeah.
And I give Bill O'Reilly a lot of credit. I like to watch him. I don't always agree, but a lot of times I do. What happened there was a travesty with that young woman getting killed. So I looked.
That was Trump. That wasn't O'Reilly.
Well, it was Trump at the beginning. You're right. No, you're right. But you know what? I was looking at a run in Connecticut for political office. So I went to the map. Do you know Connecticut? You're from Connecticut, at least originally. So do you know like 3/4 of Connecticut is a sanctuary city?
I'm not surprised.
3/4?
Yeah.
So you can't chase criminals? You can't deport criminals? It's unbelievable to me.
I know, but that's what's been going on in the suburbs. I mean, especially out west where I am now, but throughout the country. I mean, the problem with immigration is there are only two possible states. One is blissful ignorance, and the second one is point of no return. California's point of no return. Hopefully the country hasn't hit that point yet. I mean that's why Trump lost Wisconsin. They have no immigration, and they're selfish swine who refuse to listen to, their neighboring Minnesota. And, hey, how did things work out when you guys imported 100,000 Somalis? How's the welfare loads? How's the tax base going?
By the
we can
way,
assimilate anyone, but we can't bring them in the numbers we're bringing them in. We need to take care of Americans, and that includes recent immigrants.
I
we
agree.
Need to take care of the people already here first.
And I'm a real hawk on visas. I would put a moratorium on visas unless we know everything precisely, which we don't know because ISIS is infiltrating.
Right,
anything.
like 9/11 hijackers.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a very clever point of Trump's to say 9/11 might not have happened under me because those hijackers might not have been in the country.
So I don't want to detract from your book, but I felt the emotional need, Ann, to give a true confession to you.
I am so happy. Why can't you bring along your fellow supply-siders?
Ann Coulter is the author of 11 New York Times bestsellers. Her new book is In Trump We Trust, Pluribus Awesome. We're going to come right back, and we are going to talk about the current immigration flak. Has Mr. Trump let Ann Coulter down? I'm Larry Kudlow. Stay with us. Right back.
More Larry Kudlow next. Free market capitalism is the best path to prosperity. You're listening to The Larry Kudlow Show.
Welcome back, folks. We're talking to the great Ann Coulter, author of 11 New York Times bestsellers. Her new book, In Trump We Trust, Pluribus Awesome. So now, Ann, let's go to the current flap debate arguments. I'm just going to read quick Robert Costa's article in the Washington Post today. You're prominently mentioned. There's a whole debate about whether to keep the deportation or to leave the deportation, whether to keep a deportation force or not to. And let's see. Firebrand commentator Ann Coulter declared this week that it was a mistake for Trump to consider abandoning his support for mass deportations. And she said his tone sounded very consultant to me. I love that. And then let's see. Trump's softening to help illegal immigrants came on Tuesday. That was the same day Coulter released her new book, In Trump We Trust, in which she writes that anything Trump does could be forgiven, quote, except change his immigration policies, end quote. So, can you forgive him, or what is his newest position? Do we actually know?
Well, he's made mistakes before, and just, as a sidebar, the second lowest form of humor is puns. The actual lowest form is to steal someone else's joke and do it in a worse way. On that Tuesday night, I was on Hardball, and I said, if Trump is changing his immigration policies, this could be the shortest book tour ever. That was a joke, and now everyone is repeating this as if they've come up with a really funny line. So that is the lowest form of humor. Leave it to the professionals. And no, he said stupid things about immigration before. I mean, for those of us who care, our heads were exploding at that CNBC debate when he completely walked away from his immigration policy papers position on H-1B visas, which are not particularly high-skilled labor. It's cheap labor for people like Mark Zuckerberg, subsidized by the middle class. We pay for everything else. They can bring in their elderly relatives who immediately go on Social Security. And the H-1B visa workers who just replaced, 250,000 workers at Disney who had to train their cheaper foreign replacements, they're tied to a particular company. So it's a form of indentured servitude. It isn't an open market in employment. And anyway, in any event, Trump completely screwed that up. What's happening is we want someone who's not a politician, who isn't controlled by the consultants, who isn't controlled by the donors, who for decades now have been forcing Republicans to take suicidal positions. What's fresh and new and wonderful about Trump is he just looks around the country and sees what the problems are and says, this is what we need to fix. And one thing that has absolutely been true about Trump for decades, long before this, is he has always cared about regular, ordinary, middle-class Americans, working-class Americans. He's incredibly patriotic, and he'll always put Americans first. I mean, I think it just would have been, obviously someone told him to say this nonsense about back taxes. Oh, you know what it was like? Around the first week, remember when he said he was against abortion except in, these various rape, incest, and health of the mother. Health of the mother. Well, for, political obsessives, the health of the mother line is a fake out. You think it means health of the mother. What it means is the girl said she'll be depressed if she can't fit into her prom dress.
Right.
So this is legerdemain used by Washington lying, sneaking frauds. And the same thing with back taxes. No illegal alien will ever pay back taxes. They do not make enough money to pay any taxes. What that means is they get $30,000 in earned income tax credit refund. Citizenship, that wouldn't last. No citizenship, that's another fraud. That would last
And
10 seconds.
Can I ask you a favor? Would you stay over for one more segment? Really? Let's stay over. We're going to cut into the stock market. We're talking to the great Ann Coulter about a very important issue, immigration and Donald Trump. I'm Larry Kudlow. She's going to stay over, and we'll be right back after a quick break.
Making money makes sense. You're listening to The Larry Kudlow Show.
Welcome back, folks. I'm Larry Kudlow. We're here with my great pal, Ann Coulter, author of 11 New York Times bestsellers. Her newest book, maybe her most important, In Trump We Trust, Pluribus Awesome. And we're debating a key issue in the campaign right now, whether to forcibly deport an estimated 11 million illegal immigrants from the country. Mr. Trump advocated that strongly in the primaries. He may be reconsidering. And in terms of your slap at the consultants, which probably is correct, as I understand it, and this is just from reporting, because I'm a lowly one-feather Indian economic guy in that campaign. But Mayor Rudy Giuliani, Governor Chris Christie, former Fox News chief Roger Ailes are allegedly, I can't confirm that, allegedly telling Mr. Trump to soften his position. Balancing that is Senator Jeff Sessions, very influential guy in the campaign, and one of his aides, Stephen Miller. And we don't exactly know. Steve Bannon at Breitbart, now the CEO of the campaign. I know what he believes, but I don't know what position he's taken, nor do I know with Kellyanne Conway, my very, very dear friend, who said the other night that his decision was to be determined. So what do you make of all that, Ann?
I think you should stop listening to the people who worked for and supported his rivals whom he crushed. I do think this was just something someone told him, like abortion is okay for the health of the mother, and the back taxes and citizenship. These are lies being told to the American people throughout that Gang of Eight fight. With Marco Rubio pushing amnesty, Roger Ailes ran the largest Marco Rubio super PAC, Fox News. And by the way, this week, as he was saying those crazy things in the Hannity interview, every single day he was giving a magnificent speech that completely contradicted that. I just think it's crazy when you're trying to figure out what a law should be to be fixating on the unusual and hard case. So if we have a huge speeding problem on I-95, people just start going 180 miles per hour. Will the entire debate be about a guy who's rushing his wife to the hospital because she's about to die? If we're trying to decide whether shoplifting should be against the law, do we spend 1 year talking about, the small orphan child who stole a piece of bread? Is that what our focus should be? No, we are a nation of laws. We'll set up the laws, but anyone who is in this country illegally does not have a constitutional right to be here, and we will decide what's in our best interest.
Well, I agree about the constitutional right part. I absolutely agree. Let me just read you another thing that will infuriate you if you haven't seen it already. Mr. Trump's pollsters have informed him that his core demographic coalition is too narrow to win a general election. He needs to expand his appeal among college-educated whites, moderate suburbanites, and minorities, and these groups tend to be turned off by the idea of tens of thousands of federal agents breaking up families and raiding businesses, etc. Look, and you make a lot of great points.
Poll question.
All right, but
it is like saying when you're debating a law about anything, shoplifting, murder, should we have a federal force of millions of people who would break down doors and send the fathers of little children to jail just because they had to commit murder? No, the law is the law. It's a completely retarded question to ask it that way. We don't need a, quote, federal force, a deportation force. We have one. It's called Immigration and Customs Enforcement. And for the past 16 years, because both the Democrats and the Republicans do not want to enforce immigration law, do want to dump more and more poor and often, sometimes, not always, often criminal people on the country because the Democrats want the votes and the entire country is going to be California soon, and the plutocrats and the donors to the Republican Party want the cheap labor, the cheap maids, and the cheap nannies who don't live in their neighborhoods and aren't filling up the emergency rooms in their neighborhoods and aren't requiring enormous amounts of tax funds to educate their children. I mean, as I describe in the book, In Trump We Trust, even the most wonderful, law-abiding illegal immigrant with one child, and let's say they come here speaking perfect English and don't need English as a second language, and they have enough money and don't need free school lunches, and don't need emergency rooms or parks or streets or roads or anything else. To educate one child, that illegal alien would have to spend, would have to purchase $125,000 a year in taxable goods in the highest sales tax state in the country to even break even.
All right. I just want to describe to you this in the broadcast booth. I'm already under the table, all right? I'm already protecting myself from what's going to happen. But I have to tell you, all right, I'm with you on border security. I'm with you on catch and deport. I'm with you on sanctuary cities. I just can't get myself to do the mass deportation for people that have lived here 15, 20 years.
Stop calling it mass deportation.
I just can't get there.
Letting ICE do its job. We have all of these immigration agents. We have them in Arizona. Why would the government step in to prevent them from deporting illegal aliens?
Criminals, yes. Criminals, yes. If you can find them, yes. And some of these folks are part of their communities.
There are at least 30 million of them. This 11 million is a lie. You grant amnesty, you're just creating a magnet for more and more to come. There are probably more like 50 million or 60 million explained in further detail in my last book, Adios America. There is no way there are only 11 million. There are 11 million, I think, in my neighborhood in Los Angeles. You are talking about fundamentally transforming America. We are not running to escape to live in Latin America. They are running to escape to this country. The country they ran to, many of them legally, more than a third of our legal immigrants come from a single country, Mexico. The country they came to is going to be gone if we don't stop this.
All right, you're making great points. By the way, thank you. You treated me very kindly over this one disagreement.
I love you.
I appreciate it. And likewise, by the way, always have. Ann Coulter, folks. In Trump we trust. Pluribus Awesome. She's not backing down, and that's why she's a great lady. Thank you. Appreciate you staying over.
Bye-bye.
Take care.